To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
Hello dear grade 7 children. Today we are going to learn the 15th lesson of the science textbook, that is soil. So what do we have to learn about soil, children? Now we see soil day-to-day life when you go to your compound, when you go to parks, when you just go outside, you see soil. So what do you know about soil, children? Now you all know that soil is important for plant growth. That is one very important thing that we know. So what else we are going to learn about soil under this lesson, children? Let's go and see. Right. So this lesson we are going to learn under three main topics. Those are different types of soil, and under this we are going to learn that there are three main types of soil, right? And we are going to learn about the differences between those different types of soil and their uses as well, right? And then as a second topic we are going to learn about composition of soil, right? So under composition of soil we are going to learn what are the things that we can find, what are the components of soil, what are the things that we can find in the soil, and what are the functions of those components, okay? And finally we are going to learn about soil erosion. So under this topic we are going to learn that soil erosion is a very harmful thing that can happen, and we are going to learn how to minimize soil erosion as well. So we'll start the lesson now. Right. Different types of soil. So where can we find soil, children? Soil we can find on the surface of the earth, okay? Soil, the topmost layer of the earth's crust. Now do you remember what the earth's crust is? We completed this lesson about the different layers of the earth, right? So do you remember when you consider the earth? Earth has three main layers. The outermost, thinnest layer is known as the crust. And there are two more layers as well. What are they, children? So this layer is known as the core, mantle, and the outermost layer is known as the crust. And this is the crust. So when you consider the crust, the upper layers of the crust contains soil. Okay, children, the uppermost part of the crust contains soil. So when you consider soil, soil also has different layers. We are going to learn it later. Okay, so soil, the topmost layer of the earth's crust is one of the most important resources that we have been gifted from nature. So why we consider it as a resource? We are going to learn it under the lesson. It plays a very important role to maintain life on earth, okay? The nature of the soil is different from place to place on the earth. So you must have observed this one, right? So when you consider the soil's nature, it's different from place to place, right? So how does it differentiate? Now when you go from Colombo to somewhere, let's say Nuwara, right? You can see there are so many differences between the two types of soil, right? So in agricultural lands and in the forest also there are different types of soil, and even in the same area, let's say that if you consider like when you go out, when you go to your home garden, if you look at the different places, you will see the soil is different, right? So if you go under a large tree, you will see soil is rich, soil is mixed with plant parts, and soil is almost black in color, right? But if you go out to a place where there is a lot of sunlight, soil is brownish in color because soil is kind of dried up, right? So therefore, the nature of the soil is different from place to place on the earth, okay? Right. So we'll go to the next one. We have this activity to do to identify these different types of soil, okay? Observing the nature of the soil in different locations, okay? So what do we need to do this activity? It's very easy to do. Okay, even at home, you all can do this activity very easily, right? So what do you need to do this activity? We need different types of soil samples obtained from different places. Okay, and we need a white color sheet and a hand lens. Let's write this. Different soil samples a white sheet, a hand lens. Right? Different soil samples, a white sheet and a hand lens. Okay? Right. So how to do this activity? Look what you have to do. You have to check what you feel when you touch different types of soil samples. Okay? So spread the soil sample on the white paper. Observe its components of it using a hand lens. Some components you can see very clearly, but some small components using the hand lens you can observe better, right? Take a sample of soil between thumb and forefinger and feel the texture. Texture means we are going to check whether what we feel to our fingers, whether it's smooth or rough, likewise, okay? So use a table and record your observations. After doing this activity, wash your hands well, because with your fingers you have to touch soil and you have to check. Therefore, it's dirty, you have to wash your hands well. Okay, let's do this activity now. Right, children. Now we are going to do this activity to observe the nature of soil in different locations. So you all can see I have 3 soil samples. This soil sample I obtained from under a tree. Okay. This soil sample I obtained from under a rock. And this soil sample I obtained from the compound. Okay. When you look at this soil sample, you all can see the color of these soil samples are different. Okay, this one is almost light brown in color. This one is darker than this, but this first soil sample taken from under a tree is the darkest. Okay, so first of all, I will observe this first soil sample. Okay, I will take some soil in between my fingers and observe. It's a bit soft and moist. Okay, the soil sample is soft. As I touch this one, I will take some soil into this white color sheet, this paper. So here you can see some plant parts are there. Observe very carefully, children. So I can see some soil organisms. I can see an earthworm if you observe carefully. Right? So here another dead worm-like animal is there. So I can see some shells of the snails. So first we'll observe it like this, and then we'll observe using the hand lens, children. Right. Right. So here I can see small sand particles present, right? So gravel is also present. Here you all can see some plant parts, right? So parts of roots, some leaves are there, leaf particles are there. If I take some more from this one, you all can see some dried leaf particles also present. These all are plant particles. So I found another shell of a snail, right? So when I touched it, it was moist, which means water present. And because the moisture present, I could feel it soft, okay? So I will observe this one using the hand lens. So observe carefully, children. What can you all see? Observe. Here we have, so here you can see some dried leaves. Right. Some root parts are there. Right. Here's gravel, sand particles. Right. Can you all see these snail shells over here? Observe carefully. Some snail shells are there. And can you see another worm-like structure? It's a dead worm, a type of a worm. And if you observe carefully, you will see this is an earthworm. It's even moving. Right, children? So here can you see this earthworm is there. If you observe very carefully, you will see it's slightly moving. Right, children? So it's the only living animal I can see. All the other animals I can see these snails and the other worm, they are dead. But in some soil samples, you can find more number of animals, even ants and all. Right, children? Right. Okay. So you could see different things using the hand lens. So which means when we use the hand lens, we can observe the soil sample clearly. The components present in the soil sample can be clearly observed using the hand lens. Okay? Right. So my second soil sample is a sample that is taken from under a rock. Okay? So here, if I take this and if I touch this one, it is rough. Okay, the earlier soil sample was moist and soft. Now this one I can feel it's rough and bigger particles present. Okay, so I will take some of these soil sample. I will take a bit of these things to this paper. Right. So here I can see sand particles. This time I can see more gravel. Right, if you observe carefully, you can see some plant particles too. Okay, I will show it you with the hand lens. Right, can you see the sand particles? There you can see some gravel, lot of gravels present. Right, so some plant particles present. You can see tiny root particles over there. Right. And then you can see dried leaves, right? Dried twigs also there, right? Sample is almost dried, so animals are not there. Right, children? So in this sample, I could see sand particles, a lot of gravel, and also some amount of plant particles too, okay? So the third sample is taken from the compound. So if I touch this one, it is very, very dry. Compared to these first two samples, this soil sample is very, very dry, children. So I can feel it. It's very dry and very rough as well. Okay? Right. I will take some of these to my paper. So the sample was taken from a place where there is plenty of sunlight. That is why this sample is very dry. Okay? Right. So, right. Observe carefully, children. Right. Observe carefully. You can see dry, rough sand. Right. These sand particles are very hard. Hard sand particles present. Observe this one very carefully. You can see sand particles. There's a piece of glass particle too. Right? Yes. So you can see these sand particles. The sand is hard sand present. And more gravel particles present. I cannot see any plant particle here, children. Okay? Animals are also not there. Right, children? So here we use 3 soil samples taken from 3 different places, and it's very clear that the things present in these 3 soil samples, including the color, are different. Okay, so when you do this activity at home, you can find more samples like this from other places as well. Okay, the more number of samples you use, you will observe that the difference between these soil sample is also there, right? In some soil samples, you can find more plant materials, more animals present, right? The amount of water is different, likewise. Okay, children? So I hope you understood this activity. Right, children? So you all observe that experiment. So as I explained you all before, you can do this activity even at home by yourselves. It's very easy to do this activity. Okay, children? So we observed, in the lab we observed 3 different types of soil samples. So we will include the details in a table. So, first we are going to write the place. So we use 3 places, closer to a big tree, under a rock and the compound, okay? Texture. Place, components, texture. Whether it's rough or smooth, okay? Right, what's the first place? Closer to a tree. Close to a big tree. So what did we observe here, the components? I showed you all the soil close to a, I told you that I obtained that soil from under a big tree, right? What was the color of that soil, children? It was almost blackish brown in color, dark brown in color. Okay, children, it was dark brown in color. And at the same time, you could observe small plant particles, right? Dried leaves and other plant particles you could see. What else you observed, children? We could observe gravel and some sand particles as well. Okay, and I told you when I touched that soil, I could feel it a little bit softly because of the presence of moisture. Okay, children, and so texture we can write soft, okay, or moist. So components, and we could see some animals as well, tiny animals also. We could see ants and all, right? So we can see right here plant parts including dried leaves, sand, gravel, soil organisms. Right, texture soft. It was softer than the other 2 types of soil, soft or moist. Right, children? The next one. Right, number 2. Number 2, under a rock. Place was under a rock. So what could we see here? Again, more sand particles and gravel. And gravel. Right, and what else we could see? We could see some particles like plant particles, like some sticks and all. Okay, we will write plant particles, plant parts. Right, texture of the soil was it was a bit rough. Right, so now, even though you could observe what I showed you, what were the components, this one you cannot feel. You have to do this experiment by yourselves, children. Okay? So to understand this better. Next one. Third sample was from the compound. Right. So there we could see hard sand, gravel, right? So hard sand and gravel we could see. And texture was rough and it was a bit dried off. The compound, the soil taken from the compound, it was brownish in color, right? It was light brown in color compared to these two soil samples, right? It was brown in color and it was the water content present in that soil was a bit lower than the other two soil samples. Therefore, it was kind of dried, okay, and rough. Dried. Right, okay. So these are the observations, okay? Now you can do this activity using different other soil samples taken from different locations, right children? So what is the conclusion after doing this activity? It's very clear. Different components present in soil samples taken from different locations, okay? Right. Components present and the texture of soil samples are different from place to place. From place to place. Right children? Components present and the texture of soil samples are different from place to place. So you can even add another column, additional column, and you can write other information like the color of soil, okay, and any other information that if you could find, you can include them in the last column. Okay, you can, an additional column you can include. Right children? We'll move on to the next. Right children? So now we are going to learn about the mineral particles present in soil. Now you already know that different types of mineral present in soil help in plant growth. Right? Not only that, not only in plant growth, some minerals are used in different industries. For example, sand is used in, now sand is a type of mineral present, right? Sand is used in glass industry, right? Clay particles present in soil is very important in ceramic industries, likewise. Okay, children? So, mineral particles in the soil can be divided into three groups. There are three main types of minerals according to their size. So, what are these mineral particles, children? What are they? The smallest particles are known as clay particles. The second smallest one is known as silt. And the biggest particles are known as sand. Right, children? Clay, silt and sand are the three main types of particles. Right? Sand, silt, clay. Right? Clay contains very small particles with a soft texture. Right? So, clay contains very small particles with a soft texture. Right, children? So, when you touch clay particles, it's very soft. Okay? Sand particles are bigger than clay with a hard texture. Right? Sand are bigger than clay with a hard texture. Silt is medium-sized particles with a soft texture. Right? Silt is medium-sized, bigger than clay, smaller than sand. Okay? Silt particles are also soft in texture. Okay, so if you compare their sizes, so if you take sand, silt and clay, clay is the smallest, then silt, and then sand. Right? We can consider these clay particles, silt particles, sand particles. Okay, sand particles are the biggest particles, clay particles are the smallest particles. Okay, silt is intermediate size, like in between. Okay, children. So when you consider certain types of soil, is there soils with only sand particles, only silt particles and only clay particles? No. So when you consider different locations, these sand, silt and clay particles are mixed in different ratios. Okay, so some, like let's say that when you go to beach areas, the soil is almost sandy, right? Because more sand particles present than that of these clay and silt particles. Right, children? So likewise, there are 3 different types of soils based on the way that these particles are present in soil. Okay, now these are the mineral particles present in soil. Based on the ratio that these sand, silt and clay are mixed with each other, there are 3 main types of soil, right? We are going to learn that. There are 3 types of soil which can be identified according to the abundance of those particles in the soil, right? According to the abundance in the soil, right? What are they? They are, remember, the soil with more sand particles is known as sandy soil. Sandy soil. Right, now in sandy soil, more sand particles present, less amounts of silt and clay particles present. Right, and the second type is clay soil. Clay soil. What is clay soil? So it's given in the name itself. Clay soil has more clay particles than sand and silt particles. The third type is known as loamy soil. Loamy soil. Now, loamy soil is a mixture of sand, silt and clay, all 3 particles in a certain ratio. Right, children? Sandy soil has more sand particles than silt and clay particles. Clay soil contains more clay particles than that of sand and silt particles, but loamy soil has all 3 particles in it. We can't say that sand is more, clay or silt is more. Right, children? So now we are going to learn the differences, properties of these 3 different types of soil samples, soil types. Okay, children? We'll move on to the next. Right. Some features of soil types. We have to fill this table. Now I already explained you all a bit about the 3 different types of soil. We will write the type of soil here. Here I will write number 1, clay soil. Sandy soil. Loamy soil. Right? Nature of soil. So I explained you all clay soil. It has more clay particles. Okay, more clay particles present. More clay particles present. And the other nature is this clay soil is sticky. So because it is sticky only, we can use it in making different, molding that clay into different shapes. Okay, it's used in to make bricks, to make tiles, in a ceramic industry also it is used because the sticky nature, we can mold this clay into different shapes. Okay, so more clay particles present and it is sticky. Right? So properties, because of the specific nature, because of the presence of more clay particles and because it is sticky, there are certain properties. Now, clay particles are very tiny particles. Clay particles have this special ability of retaining, right? Holding water molecules with it. Okay, so if a certain soil has more clay particles, that type of soil or clay soil, it can retain more water. But at the same time, when you consider these clay particles, they are very tiny particles. Therefore, in between the particles, the amount of spaces present is very less. Therefore, the retention of air, if in between soil particles, if more spaces present, that type of soil can retain more air. Right? Now, the space between these clay particles is very, very less. Therefore, the air retention is very low. Okay, children? So, we will write that properties. Retains water and minerals too. Retention of retains less air. Retains less air. Retains water and minerals well. Retains less air. So this type of soil, even though a lot of water present in this soil, the amount of air is less. Right? So what are the uses of this type of soil? To make tiles, bricks, right? In ceramic industry. Right, children? Second one is sandy soil. We will use a different color for this one so that we can see clearly. Sandy soil. Sandy soil. Right? What is the nature of soil? Sandy soil. So more sand particles present. Now when you go to beach, you know that the beach has sandy soil. What will happen if you take some amount of this sandy soil to your hands and you know that this sand is very loosely arranged, right? Sand will go through your fingers very easily. It is not sticky at all, right? When you take some sandy soil, the sand particles will go through your fingers very easily because these sand particles are loosely arranged with each other, children. They are not packed with each other. Right? So, more sand particles present. More sand particles present. They are loosely arranged. Right. So what are the properties? What do you think about the retention of air and water in this sandy soil? Now, as I explained you all, as these sand particles are loosely arranged with each other, there's more space between these particles. So obviously, this type of soil can retain more air. What do you think about retention of water, children? Right? So when you pour water into this sandy soil, water will go through these sand particles and it sinks to the bottom, which means this sandy soil cannot retain water well. Right? Because the spaces between the particles are too big to retain water. Okay, children? So retention of water is less, retention of air is more, right? Retains air well. Retains less water and minerals. Right, children? So what are the uses? Sand is used in building constructions. And earlier I explained you all in glass industry as well, okay? In glass industry. To make buildings. Right, children? So the last type is loamy soil. Now earlier I explained y'all, loamy soil contains all three particles, sand, silt and clay particles. And at the same time, this type of loamy soil contains a lot of organic matter. What is the meaning of organic matter, children? Organic matter means plant and animal particles present in soil. Right? So if plant and animal particles, organic matter present in soil, that type of soil is very rich in nutrients. Okay, children, very rich in nutrients. So this type of soil is very good for plant growth. Right? Not only rich in nutrients, now when you consider this loamy soil, because sand, silt and clay are mixed with each other, it can retain water and air very well. Right? So you know that when you consider clay soil, sandy soil, now clay soil cannot retain air well. Sandy soil cannot retain water well. Therefore, these type of soils are not that good for plant growth. Okay, not that good for agriculture, but remember, some plants are there that grows very well in these types of soil as well. But most of the time, loamy soil is best for the plant growth, for agriculture. Okay, children? Right, we'll write these things. Nature of soil. Sand, silt, and clay present. Right? Sand, silt, and clay present. More organic matter present. More organic matter present. Right? Properties: retains water and air sufficiently, adequately. Rich in nutrients and also soil organisms, a lot of organisms present. Right? Soil organisms present in a soil where there is air and water both. Right? Therefore, this type of soil contains a lot of organisms, children, because they can nicely survive in these type of soils. Right? So, rich in nutrients and soil organisms. Okay? So, uses mainly used for agriculture. For agriculture. Right. Okay. So the type of soil, clay soil. Nature, more clay particles present and it is sticky because I told you clay can retain water, right? Properties: retains water and minerals well, and it retains less air. Uses: to make tiles, bricks, etc. and also in ceramic industry, right? So sandy soil, more sand particles present and they are loosely arranged, right? It retains air well and retains less water and minerals, okay? So there are uses in glass industry to make buildings, etc. Right? Loamy soil. Loamy soil contains sand, silt and clay, all three particles, okay? So more organic matter present in this type of soil, therefore it's very rich. So properties: it retains water and air sufficiently, right? Because all three particles plus more organic matter present. When a certain soil contains more organic matter, that type of soil can retain more water and also air, children, right? So rich in nutrients and soil organisms too. And this type of soil is used for agriculture. Right, children? Okay. So even though we learn there are these three types of soil, sometimes we can change this clay and sandy soil also into loamy soil. Let's say that we are living in a place where clay soil or sandy soil present. So if we want to grow plants, if we can't use these type of soils, what we have to do is we have to mix this clay soil or sandy soil with more organic materials. Right? These organic materials can make this soil porous, which means like spaces present, okay? Make this soil retain water and air well. Therefore, you can change these type of other types of soils also into loamy soil by mixing it with organic matter. Okay, children? Right. Loamy soil is more suitable for the growth of plants. Therefore, a flower pot should be filled with loamy soil. Loamy soil is normally, you must have seen, like if you go to a forest, you will see the soil is always black in color. The color of the soil, even if you look at a flower bed, the soil is darker in color. Soil under a tree is darker in color. Right? Okay, it's almost black in color because of the presence of organic materials. Okay, so therefore a flower pot should be filled with loamy soil. Right, children? So what is this set of sieves? Pictures given. What is the meaning? What is this set of sieves used for? We will see. Sieves are used to separate different sized particles in the soil. Right? So these sieves come as a set. Some sets contain like these 4 pieces. Some others contain more pieces too. Right? These sieves are prepared in sets. The topmost sieve has the biggest holes. Now you all can see you have to stack these sieves on each other. Right? The topmost sieve has the biggest hole. The size of the holes decrease from top to bottom. So how can we take it? If you consider the topmost sieve is this, if this is the second sieve, right? So, let's say topmost sieve has the biggest holes. Right. 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 Okay, so if you take the sieves, the topmost sieve has the biggest holes. The next one, the second one's holes are smaller than the top one, right? A little bit closer than before. Right, children? Right. Okay, so the topmost one has the biggest holes. The size of the holes becomes smaller as you go down, right? So the size of the holes decreases from top to bottom. The soil mixture is put into the topmost sieve and the set of the sieve is shaken fast, right? So electric sieve shakers are also there. We can do this manually as well, okay? Then in each sieve, different size soil particles remain. So let's say that if you put the soil sample, the entire soil sample. So when we consider soil samples, there are different sized particles. So in the first activity, we observed, right? Some gravels present, sand particles present, other fine particles also present, okay? So when you put the entire soil sample to the topmost sieve. And when you shake, well, what will happen? The biggest particle will remain on top and the smaller ones go to the second one. Through the second one, next biggest one will remain in the second one and the rest will go to the third one. Likewise, when you go to the bottom, after doing this activity, right after separating these things, you will realize the biggest particles present in soil will remain in the topmost sieve and the smallest or the finest particles present in soil will go to the bottom one. Okay, children? So we are going to do this activity now. Okay? Right. So activity. Using a set of sieves to separate soil into different particles. Right? So what are the materials you need? You need the soil sample and a set of sieve. Right? Set of sieves and the soil sample. Okay, set of sieves and a soil sample we need. So how to do this activity? It's very simple, right? Separate soil particles using different sized sieves. I explained you all how to do this, right? Mix them in different ratios and form different types of soil. So after separating the soil sample into different components, you can try to mix them at different ratios and try to make different types of soil samples, right? Okay, so if you add more soil particles, you can form a sandy soil, right? If you add more sand particles, you can form a sandy soil. Clay particles, basically clay soil likewise. Okay, children? Right, we'll do this activity in the lab now. Right, children? So in this activity, I'm going to show you all how to use a sieve set. So I already explained what a sieve set is. Why do we use a sieve set like this, children? We can use this type of sieve set to separate soil into different samples according to their particle size, okay? So when we consider the sieve set, now here I have 3 sieves here, but it depends. In different sieve sets, there are different number of sieves used, okay? So look at this topmost sieve. Now look at the size of the holes. And I will take the second one. Right. So this is the first sieve. This is the second sieve. Look at the size of the holes. Right. You all can see in the first ones, holes are bigger than that of the second one. So I will take the second one and third one. Now this is the second one. This is the third one. This is the second one, this is the third one. So if you observe carefully, compare the sizes of the tiny holes. Second one's holes are bigger than the third one's holes. Okay, children? So when you arrange these sieve sets, when you stack it up on each other, what you have to do is this sieve with the smallest hole should go to the bottom, right? And the sieve with the largest hole should come to the top. Then what do you have to do, children? Then you have to pour the soil sample onto the topmost sieve and then you have to nicely shake it. Okay. So I'm going to place this sieve set on a piece of cardboard. So here I have the soil sample. Look, if you observe, it has different sized particles. Okay. So I'm going to put this into the topmost sieve. And then you have to shake this entire sieve set together. Right, children. So here you can see very fine soil sample is collected to this cardboard piece. Okay, white color paper, you all can see. So this soil sample is very fine, right? Which means when I shake this sieve set, what happens? These tiny particles go through each hole and then what happens? It is collected at the bottom, right? Then I am going to show you all about the other soil samples, other particles present in each of these sieves, okay? So, first I will take this one, the topmost sieve, then I will show you all this. And the second sieve. And the third sieve. Right. Right, children. Now observe carefully. This sample was taken from the topmost sieve. Well, that topmost sieve has the holes with the largest size, okay? Largest holes present there. So it can retain only the bigger particles and it sends all the other smaller particles to the second sieve. Okay, so this was retained by the topmost sieve. Okay, look at the second sample, children. This was taken from the second sieve, right? You all can see very clearly that the size of these particles are smaller than the first particles, right, children? So here what happens, this, when according to the size of these particles, the second sieve also can retain, can keep these type of samples and then the finer samples are sent to the bottom one. Okay, so when you compare these last two samples, they are almost the same, but if you observe very carefully, you will realize these particles are a little bigger than these last particles, last sample. Okay, so here using the sieve set, according to the size of the soil samples, you can separate the soil sample into different sets of particles. Okay, children, so you will always find the biggest particle using the topmost sieve and the smaller particles using the bottom sieves. So you observed how to use a set of sieves. So I hope you understood that part now, how to separate the different particles present in a soil sample using the set of sieves. Okay, we'll move on to the next. Right. Sandy soil or clay soil can be converted to loamy soil by adding organic materials. This is very important. I explained this earlier too. Right. Sandy soil or clay soil can be converted to loamy soil by adding organic materials in suitable amounts. Right. So thereby we can convert sandy soil and clay soil into loamy soil and we can even use them in agriculture. Okay, children. So we have completed the first chapter of this lesson. So under this chapter we learned what are the different types of minerals present in soil. Under that we learned that there are three main types of minerals present based on their size: sand particles, silt particles and clay particles. And when these different particles mix in different ratios, based on the way they mixed with each other, there are three types of soil: sandy soil, clay soil and loamy soil. And we learn the properties and nature of these different types of soil and we learn what are the uses of these different types of soil as well. So in the next chapters, we are going to learn more about soil.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.